team for the San Diego LOSSAN Rail Realignment. But before I begin, I would like to invite Brenda to provide instructions for interpretation services.
Muy buenas noches. Esta tarde ponemos a disposición de nuestro público los servicios de interpretación para quienes lo requieran. Si necesita asistencia, la intérprete estará ubicada a la izquierda de la plataforma. Le damos una cálida bienvenida y esperamos que disfruten del evento. Gracias.
With me, Tim Pesce, who is our Senior Environmental Planner, and Danny Ve, our Rail Program Manager. Tim and Danny will walk us through a presentation, telling us the story of what we've done so far and what the next steps are, and they'll go into detail on the alternatives. There will be different stations outside in the lobby where you can get information about alternative alignments, the tunneling, and the CEQA process. So after this presentation, we'll invite you to go to the lobby. You'll also have the opportunity to provide feedback, and we have multiple modes. There is a written comment card that you can fill out. You can speak individually with a court reporter, or you can use one of our laptops to submit a comment on the online portal. We'll also have verbal comments here. On the mic, you can fill out the speaker slip, and we'll receive the verbal comments at about 6:45. Depending on the number of people signing up, we'll decide how many minutes we're going to allocate to each person, because we really want to hear from all of you, so we'll make it as efficient as possible. With that, I'll pass it on to Tim.
Cool. Hi, everybody. As Maria mentioned, I'm Tim Pesce, Senior Environmental Planner with SANDAG. So I'm part of the team here that will see this project through CEQA. So just an overview of what you can expect from this meeting. We're going to go over some slides about previous planning efforts related to this project, look at the updated proposed alternatives, how and why those alternatives are being proposed, and what the CEQA process looks like moving forward. And then, of course, we'll take your comments as well. So what is CEQA? CEQA is the California Environmental Quality Act. It was put into legislation in the 70s. It's basically a way for agencies to make sure that we look before we leap. That is, that we want to make sure that we consider all potential environmental consequences of all proposed projects, and we want to go to the public for input, and we also want to make sure that everything is aligned well with future plans. It's really just a way to inform the public and decision makers about proposed projects before they move forward. So it's a very, very critical phase of environmental, and we really like to get all of your feedback on this. So the notice of preparation originally was released last year for the project. Just a couple weeks ago, we released an update to that notice of preparation, or NOP. The scoping meeting goes hand in hand with the NOP. So again, thank you all for being here tonight. During the scoping meeting, we are going to introduce the project and the alternatives, and again, really ask for your input on the proposed alternatives and areas that we are proposing to study as part of the process.
All right. So let's take a look at the future of the LOSSAN corridor. Excuse me. This is right at Del Mar Bluffs, and just on top of the bluffs there is the LOSSAN Rail Corridor, those tracks right above it. And we've been stabilizing these bluffs for more than 20 years through a series of planned and emergency repairs. And these are all short-term solutions. This drone video was shot in 2024 during the King Tide event, and it helps visualize the threats to the rail corridor. So you can see there's just no beach. We have waves that are hitting the bluff toe and undermining the bluffs. We have heavy rains and from storms that are washing out from above. And these have caused erosion of up to 6 inches per year. And then just south of the bluffs, the tracks cut through Los Penasquitos Lagoon. And during this King Tide event, you can see just how close the high tide water is from the tracks. And they're at risk of washouts and damage if there was a flood event during these high tides. And so there are these resiliency threats to the rail corridor. So the LOSSAN corridor is a critical component of our region's transportation network and connects destinations north and south throughout the region. It is our only rail connection between San Diego region, and the rest of the state and the nation. The state of California and SANDAG have plans for safe, resilient, and reliable rail corridor that not only protects the infrastructure that we have out there today, but allows for improved service. And that improved service means more frequent trains, so trains basically coming once every, or 4 trains per hour per direction throughout the day, and reduced travel time, so people can get to where they're going in a more efficient manner. The San Diego LOSSAN Rail Realignment project is just one of many projects across the LOSSAN corridor that will help achieve that vision. The LOSSAN corridor is important as it carries Amtrak Pacific Surfliner intercity trains. This is the intercity train that connects San Diego to Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo. And this service really caters toward a lot of business and leisure travel, as well as like students that are coming home from college or visitors that are coming to San Diego for the weekend. And there are a few long distance commuters. The coaster serves all of our North Coast cities within the county and serves a lot of daily commuters, but more recently we've seen an increase in more recreational trips. So if you ride the train down to a Padre game, it's full of people. And then on weekends we're seeing people come up to our coastal cities, going to our beaches and using the coaster as a way to access those points. And we also have freight service, which serves the Port of San Diego, moving goods in and out of the San Diego region to all over North America. And without this rail corridor, that means more cars, more trucks, and more traffic, and really no other viable option to travel this corridor outside of a car.
All right, there have been many past planning efforts to look at this segment of the LOSSAN corridor over the years. The first formal one that we wanted to highlight is the 2007 programmatic EIR-EIS. That was a big environmental document that was done at a conceptual level. It looked at LA, Orange County, and San Diego County. So we'll highlight that in more details in a couple of slides. Also in 2014, there was a North Coast Corridor Public Works Plan that also took into account this future project as part of that document. Other things to highlight, so we do want to make sure that the project builds off of what was previously done under the State Rail Plan's vision and SANDAG's Regional Transportation Plan. So more recently, as I just mentioned earlier, we released the 2024 NOP exactly a year ago almost. So that was kind of what leapfrogged us into this next phase here. We received a lot of public comments, really great input, and that kind of told us that we should consider all these comments, take a step back, and move into a value analysis study. So there's been a lot of work that's been going on behind the scenes since that NOP came out last year. The value analysis resulted in reports that summarize what happened during that study, and that brought us to today, where we're having the scoping meeting for the updated NOP based on what we learned over the last year. So some more details in that 2007 programmatic document. It looked at how to solve the challenge in this section of the corridor. It considered at-grade solution in the existing alignment, a trench alignment that largely followed the existing segment. It also looked at a tunnel under Camino del Mar and a tunnel under I-5. And those last two, the Camino del Mar and I-5 alternatives, were recommended in that previous document to be studied further. And they're shown here on the right-hand side of the screen. Similar to that, 7 years later in 2014, the North Coast Corridor Public Works Plan and Transportation and Resource Enhancement Program kind of mimicked what FRA previously studied in 2007. This document recommended again to look at these two alternatives, the Camino del Mar alternative and the I-5 alternative.
Okay, so for many of you who have been plugged in to this project for several years, you'll recognize this map. These are alternatives that were identified in the 2023 Alternatives Analysis Report. And what this shows is several options for tunnel portals in the north, a few options for tunnel portals in the south, and several alignment connections between each of those portals. And in the fall and winter of 2023, we held 5 public engagement events to share information about the alternatives analysis. And we hosted both virtual and in-person community field offices aimed at connecting members of the public directly with our project team. And these efforts included open houses, workshops on tunneling, and we even asked folks to draw alignments and provided those opportunities for individuals to provide public comment. And this map here is a reflection of those alignments that were drawn at those workshops. And then building off the 2023 alternatives analysis and that subsequent public engagement, SANDAG entered into the environmental process. And that first step, as Tim mentioned, was the notice of preparation. So last June, those 3 alternatives were proposed in the 2024 NOP, and we held a public scoping meeting just like this, and we asked for your comments. And the response to our NOP was impressive. We received over 1,500 comments and related to a wide range of topics on various alternatives, on goals, and on objectives. And in response, SANDAG sponsored a value analysis study. Now, this VA study was performed through a series of workshops and meetings with representatives from the cities of Carlsbad, Del Mar, Encinitas, San Diego, Solana Beach, the 22nd District Agricultural Association, the fairgrounds, Caltrans, and North County Transit District. This VA study was a collaborative effort and technically driven with the goal of providing a fresh look at alternative concepts, to learn more about the project challenges, and developed new or refined ideas. And the VA, it's a prime example of how public comments and participation at meetings just like this can help influence the direction of a project. So during the VA process, the participants generated hundreds of ideas, and 16 of which were advanced and developed in the study. These are shown on this map here. And you can see a grouping of 5 south portals, 6 north portals, and 10 different alignments. Notably, ideas were explored to move the entire rail line to I-5 or move freight to I-15, as well as look at double tracking along the bluffs. The results of the value analysis study are summarized in a final report, and that's available on our project website. Ultimately, there was no unanimous agreement among VA participants on which alignments to study in the EIR. However, there was general agreement on the project goal and objectives, and there was consensus on 3 key themes: minimize effects to private property, including subsurface easements; minimize disruptions to economic generators, such as the Del Mar Fairgrounds and commercial districts; and demonstrate public stewardship by minimizing conflicts with prior and ongoing investments.
All right, so 3 months ago, we went to our SANDAG Board of Directors to show them what we learned from the value analysis process, and also what their feedback might be on the next steps that we've outlined. So as a result of that meeting, we have some confirmed project goal and objectives that we want to go over with you tonight. So the project goal is to maintain and enhance passenger and freight service along the San Diego segment of the LOSSAN corridor. So the CEQA project objectives, these are important because the alternatives that we're going to go over with you in a few slides will be compared against these objectives. So we would like to improve rail service reliability by minimizing risks from climate change, including consideration of sea level rise, flooding, and the stability of the coastal bluffs. Maintain passenger rail service to Solana Beach and Sorrento Valley and accommodate direct rail access to the Del Mar Fairgrounds while minimizing disruptions to passenger and freight service during construction. Minimize impacts to existing homes, businesses, tourism, and major economic generators, including the fairgrounds and transportation facilities during and after construction. Avoid and minimize negative effects, and where possible, enhance biological, cultural, and recreational resources of national, state, or local significance, including publicly owned parks, recreational trails, beaches, wetlands, ecological reserves, wildlife or waterfowl refuges, and any publicly or privately owned historic site listed or eligible for listing on the National Register of Historic Places. We would like to help meet the goals of the 2021 Regional Transportation Plan and the State Rail Plan by increasing passenger and freight train capacity, further reducing travel times, improving reliability, and considering existing and planned investments. Improve coastal access and safety by eliminating at-grade railroad crossings and minimizing points of interaction between rail and all other modes of transportation. And lastly, we'd like to demonstrate good public stewardship by delivering the project in a timely way that considers prior and ongoing investments, construction, right-of-way operations, and maintenance costs. So again, these updated alternative alignments will be compared equally against those project objectives that our board of directors approved. So alternatives being considered, the environmental impact report will describe a reasonable range of alternatives that we'll go over. Reasonable means that they meet most of the basic project objectives, are feasible to construct, and avoid or lessens environmental impacts. The EIR must also look at a no project alternative. In other words, that just means what would happen if we did nothing. So this is a very, very important part about CEQA, and your input is very welcome on all these proposed alternatives.
Okay, let's get into the updated alternatives that are now being considered in the updated NOP. So all of the alternatives I will describe are comprised of the following features. So graded, these are tracks that are constructed on the ground. Flood walls, these are walls to prevent tracks from being inundated during floods. Berms are railroad tracks that are constructed over raised earth embankments. A cut and cover tunnel, these are tracks that are built below ground but constructed from the surface and then covered. Bored tunnels are mine tunnels that are constructed horizontally underground using tunnel boring machines. Portals are the points at which tracks enter or exit the tunnels. U-structures are built in advance of a tunnel portal to depress the tracks below the surface. Bridges are aerial structures to cross over water or roads. And a trench is similar to a U-structure, but not associated with a portal or tunnel. So similar to like Solana Beach. Okay, so here are the proposed updated notice of preparation alternatives. So it's clear some of the lines are similar to previously studied alignments, but all of these alignments have been updated and refined based on the 1,500 scoping comments we received in 2024 through the VA study and direction from the SANDAG board. So let's walk through these one by one, which have not been ranked in any order of preference. All right, so starting with the yellow line, this is San Dieguito Bridge to I-5 Knoll. In the north, this line ties in to the south end of the San Dieguito double track bridge. It makes a curve to cross over Jimmy Durante Boulevard on a bridge following along San Dieguito Drive and the edge of the San Dieguito Lagoon. The bridge continues to the southeast, entering a tunnel portal near Racetrack View Drive near the north end of Crest Canyon. Then the tunnel continues under I-5 to the I-5 Knoll portal along the edge of the Los Penasquitos Lagoon and connects with existing tracks in Sorrento Valley. This alternative aims to minimize impacts to the fairgrounds, preserve prior and ongoing investments, and avoids going under homes by following existing transportation corridors. The estimated preliminary cost ranges from $3.8 billion to $5.1 billion. After the VA study, SANDAG conducted outreach in stakeholder communities, and during those events, stakeholders described a more northerly variation of this alternative alignment. Staff will explore this design concept during the environmental process. All right, next up was the blue line. This is under Crest Canyon. In the north, this line connects to the southern end of the San Dieguito double track bridge, then dives down into a U-structure with a portal entrance under Jimmy Durante Boulevard. This line is different than prior alignments as it more closely follows under Crest Canyon to reduce the number of subsurface easements under homes. The tunnel would resurface at the I-5 Knoll portal and connect with double track in Sorrento Valley. The estimated preliminary cost ranges from $3.7 billion to $5.0 billion. Next is the pink line, or under Camino del Mar. In the north, this line connects to the southern end of the San Dieguito double track bridge, then dives down into a U-structure with a portal entrance under Jimmy Durante Boulevard. This underground alignment more closely follows under Camino del Mar to reduce the number of subsurface easements. The alignment surfaces at the Torrey Pines Road West portal. Then double track would continue along a bridge and berm across Los Penasquitos Lagoon, following the existing railroad corridor to Sorrento Valley. The estimated preliminary cost ranges from $3.3 billion to $4.4 billion. All right, and the fourth alternative here, alternative alignment, is the green line, or the Del Mar Bluffs double track reinforced. This line maintains the current alignment. It adds double track along the bluffs through Los Penasquitos Lagoon with bluff reinforcement and more robust seawalls. So starting near the Camino del Mar overcrossing, this alignment adds a double track just east of the existing single track along the bluffs. The alignment keeps the rail in the existing right-of-way, but requires more substantial seawalls and bluff stabilization to ensure long-term resiliency. It also requires a grade separation at Coast Boulevard with tracks going under the roadway. Then double track would continue along a bridge and berm across Los Penasquitos Lagoon, following the railroad corridor to Sorrento Valley. This alignment does not include tunneling. The estimated preliminary cost ranges from $1.8 billion to $2.5 billion. And the no project, it's an important one to highlight, as this would require continued bluff stabilization beyond the existing work that's currently underway to protect the existing single track alignment in the long term. The no project alternative would not add double track along the bluffs or within Los Penasquitos Lagoon.
All right, so there are guidelines within CEQA that instruct us what to look at when you're evaluating a project, different resource areas. So we're proposing to look at the resource areas shown here. So just to name a few: aesthetics, visual resources, cultural resources, noise and vibration, biological resources, areas like that. We're proposing to study all the resource areas in the guidelines except for agricultural resources, because there is no agricultural land in the project area. So a general timeline of what you can expect the next steps to be. So we went over the first few points already. That brings us to where we are today with the CEQA scoping meeting on the updated NOP. So again, the public comment period is 45 days through June 30th. So any comments that you're able to provide us in that time frame is very appreciated. Once we get those comments, we're going to use that to kind of further refine what we propose in the NOP. One thing to mention here is that you see a point on NEPA scoping. That's the National Environmental Policy Act. That is the federal version of CEQA, which is the state version of environmental clearance. We're going to be working with the future federal lead agency through that process. So there will be another subsequent scoping period for the federal NEPA process. So there'll be another chance to provide comments as well. After scoping, we're going to go through a period of about 12 to 18 months where we look into the technical studies. So that's when we get the answers to all the great questions that we've been receiving. When we kind of go through the process, we're going to be in the field doing vegetation mapping, all that sort of thing. Those technical studies are going to be conducted on each of the 4 alternatives with the no build being considered. And that's going to guide us into the draft environmental document, which is going to summarize the results of the technical study. And at that time is where there'll be a preferred alternative originally suggested. So we're looking at a couple years out from that point in time. Again, I want to reiterate that nothing is final at all until the SANDAG Board of Directors considers the environmental document and also the federal lead agency. So right now we're just recommending what we should study, and we want your feedback to make sure that we hopefully got it right, or if you see other things that you could point out to us that can be incorporated in our studies. So again, it's really important to get your comments on the record. As Maria mentioned a little bit earlier, to get your comments on record tonight, there are several ways to do that. You can go to some of the boxes around the room here and actually write a written comment and drop it off with us, and that becomes part of the record. There's also a court reporter. You can speak directly to the court reporter, who will transcribe all the comments and then submit it to us as part of the record. There's an online comment form. There's some computers around the room in there. You can type your comment electronically directly. And there's also verbal comments, so if you get the speaker slip, you can provide verbal comments here tonight. But you do not have to submit comments tonight if you're not ready. We always accept comments up until the deadline, which again is June 30th, 2025. So you have about a month from today. The best way to do that is via email to lossancomment@sandag.org with the subject line SDLRR Project NOP. You can also go to our SANDAG website, sandag.org/rail realignment, and there's an online form to submit comments. And you could also do hard copy mail to our new office at 1011 Union Street, Suite 400 in San Diego. And with that, I'll turn it back to Maria.
Thank you, Tim and Danny. So if you would like to hear more about channeling, the CEQA process, or the alternatives, you can go to the stations in the lobby. If you want to fill out the comments, there are stations over there. But if you want to do your comment verbally, we'll ask you to go to the table to your right side over there and fill out a slip. And in about 5 minutes, we'll begin the public comments here. I'll pass it on to Mario Orso, our CEO.
Hi, welcome, and thank you for coming. The team pretty much laid it out. I just want to, again, thank all of you for taking the time. Mention, like it was, this is the opportunity to provide feedback. It's until June 30th. We are really want to be as transparent as possible, as open as possible. When you have projects of this size and this complexity, there are many, many opinions. And you probably are never going to land everybody on one single opinion. Our job is going to be to balance all that and try to reach some consensus based on what the team put in as the guiding principles. That's pretty much it. We're really open to any questions. We're even more open for your comments. They are legal comments, and we need to address them. Like the team also mentioned, there will be another opportunity during the NEPA process. We are working with the federal agency, the appropriate federal agency, to begin that process of NEPA, as well as if they have delegated that to a state agency. So we are really appreciative of you taking the time to come and chat with us, get informed, and provide your comments. And we'll see you on the floor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to begin verbal public comment. If you're interested in providing spoken comments this evening and have not yet submitted a speaker slip, please do so. Speakers will be called to the microphone and podium in order in which the speaker slips were received. The amount of time allowed for each verbal comment is determined based on the number of speakers signed up for comment. This allows us to hear from as many people as possible before the meeting ends. Based on the number of speakers signed up, we've determined that each member of the public will be given 2 minutes for their comment. If you would prefer to submit written comments, please visit the comment tables in the lobby. Written and spoken comments at tonight's meeting and all comments we receive during the public scoping period will be added to the administrative record. As a reminder, we are taking your comments as part of the record and not responding to or answering questions. When you're called, please state your name clearly so that the court reporter can document your comments accurately. Let's get started. Our first speaker is Maxwell Gergen, perhaps? Yeah?
Hi, my name is Maxwell Gergen. I'm a resident of downtown San Diego. I was commenting on this as the LOSSAN corridor is very important to me. It is my way to visit friends in LA and Orange County. It is my way to visit friends in travel in North County, San Diego. And it is also just a way, it is next to my apartment and I care about it deeply. I was commenting as I am concerned about 2 alignments in particular, as well as the no-build option. So I believe that these tracks need to be off of the Del Mar Bluffs. And I think that includes a reinforced Del Mar Bluffs option. I don't think that that should be considered, as that would still remain on the Del Mar Bluffs and would still be at risk of erosion someday. So I believe that these tracks need to be moved inland. Also, I believe that the I-5 alignment is very slow speed. It has a 30-mile-per-hour curve on a right-of-way that the state of California, as well as SANDAG, have both said they want 110 miles per hour between San Diego and Oceanside. So I believe that a 30-mile-per-hour curve is just not reasonable on a corridor like this. So I'm also commenting in favor of the Crest Canyon alignment and the Camino Del Mar alignment. Personally, my favorite is the Crest Canyon alignment, as it will allow for 110 mile per hour speeds, and will have very low impacts on Del Mar and especially low impacts on the lagoons around Del Mar. I think that is about it on my comment. Thank you.
My name is Karen Lair, and I'm Del Mar resident, and I'm also head of a homeowners association. So tonight I'm representing 126 homeowners on the south end of Del Mar at Del Mar Woods. The HOA will be submitting a formal letter to SANDAG as well. The line that you've, one of the line options that goes underneath Camino Del Mar has quite an impact on the HOA. It goes underneath a 3-story building that was built in the 1970s. And so it goes directly under 3-story condominiums that were not built to have a train underneath them. So we've talked with your engineers about the potential for the shaking and rattling and rolling that will happen because the earth does conduct the sound and does conduct the, also the vibrations. So we'll be submitting a letter on the behalf of the HOA to you as well on that. But I'd like to consider the rail alignments that do not impact people's homes, namely a northern yellow route. So the northern yellow route had been discussed with SANDAG. I'm disappointed that more work was not done on this before you came out with the NOP. It would have been beneficial to all of us because I do know that some work was done by your engineers if that had been included as one of the options. It's feasible, it's on public land, it does not take people's homes, and contrary to the gentleman's comment here, a sharper turn where the train has to slow down is not the end of the world. It's a lot better than taking someone's home, and it's a lot better than disrupting an entire community. So we appreciate it's a difficult task. I think that the biggest benefit would be if you did a long-range forecast and you really moved these tracks completely out of some of these towns, 110 miles an hour, even 70 miles an hour through a densely populated area is a challenge. So as you're doing this work, I hope that you get a chance to do that as well. Thank you.
I'm Carol Carriage of Del Mar. I'm concerned about the cumulative impacts of safety risk throughout the whole Del Mar hillside, and I think they're mounting. Geological findings of the region show the coastal hillside areas are made of more sedimentary, softer rock with the harder, more solid rock at the base. Increasing erosion and several mudslides have already occurred in these sedimentary areas here on our hillside. Along with these issues, several residents have noted sinkholes and flooding on their property occurring during and after heavy rains. Scripps Institute of Oceanography climate scientists predict possible extreme weather threats to our region that include strong atmospheric rivers and intense Santa Ana winds. Del Mar is now found to be at high risk for wildfires. Should a tunnel be decided on any location on our hillside, how will the seismic vibrations of trains affect the higher sedimentary geological areas of the hillside? And how far away will the rumble of the trains be felt and heard? Considering the sedimentary geological areas of the hillside, how will it withstand the weight of the proposed train travel of 111 trips per 24 hours? The Bureau of Transportation Statistics reports each freight train engine weighs 200 to 240 tons. That's 1 ton equals 2,000 pounds. The freight train cars that are empty weigh 25 to 30 tons each. I hate to even mention the FEMA prediction of earthquakes for our region. Has SANDAG taken any consideration of these issues as you study the LOSSAN plan for our region? Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Hi, my name is Dirk Uwe Bartsch. I'm a resident of Del Mar, and my concern is with the newspaper article that came about 2 months ago that said that the federal government is a stakeholder and the federal government has not yet signed off on moving the tracks. So for the Defense Department and also for heavy freight traffic, if you cannot move that through the tunnel, and this is only a passenger tunnel, then it's really not going to be helpful to move that off the track. So I prefer either the current idea to double track it along the bluff with reinforcement, but to have a tunnel that will only be used by passenger rail, it's $4 billion down the rabbit hole. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Shirley Weiss. I'm a resident of Del Mar. The best route is the route that we've heard the least about today, and that is the northern yellow line that has been proposed by residents in consultation with their engineers. That line is north of the San Diego Drive that has been shown as one of the alternatives. It is one of the routes that SANDAG has committed to study, but they should have had it in the NOP. That route has no negative impact on any homes or businesses in Del Mar. It preserves the San Diego Lagoon and allows restoration of the Penasquitos, Los Penasquitos Lagoon. It has no negative impact on the city of Solana Beach. It places no air pollution portals near homes, near the coast, or near the fairgrounds, no tunnels under homes. It runs entirely along the edge of a state-owned property and minimally impacts the fairgrounds, for which compensation can be paid without displacing families. It eliminates expensive tunnels under private property and below sea level. It assumes the fairgrounds will have their special events platform. It allows the river path Del Mar to be completed as planned. It is the best route. The only drawback is it's not going to go 110 miles an hour. 110 miles an hour through a densely populated Del Mar is basically asking for a catastrophe. Please study the Northern Yellow Line. It is our only real hope here. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jimmy Deely, and I am in support of the Crest Canyon Higher Speed Alignment. Of all the routes that could be chosen, if you are spending a significant amount of money, you might as well go big or go home. No compromises tunneling, so go as fast as possible through Del Mar. Unfortunately, if residents are going to complain, then that's going to be an issue, of course. But as shown previously, the fairgrounds are not interested in working with any project here. You have to think about what's viable, and potentially if a few homes, specifically with Crest Canyon Higher Speed, and with 7 homes being impacted, you might impact those 7 homes, but you can get the trains off the bluffs, which reduces the noise for those living on the bluffs. It allows you to have coastal access for a larger portion of the coastline, and it prevents you from needing a large retaining wall, which would ruin the coastal views and ruin the aesthetics of the area. Additionally, I'd say this might not be being discussed at this meeting, but please leave space for overhead electric catenary lines for future electrification. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Leif Gensert. I'm the Vice President of RIDE-SD, a local education and information public transport advocacy group. Lots of our members take the train often from San Diego to LA, even further all the way to Santa Barbara. I personally take the coaster all the time to go to Solana Beach, to Oceanside. We are very much in favor of a stable connection between San Diego and Los Angeles. We also want the train to be fast. That's why we are leaning towards the Crest Canyon option. Additionally, we would like to wish some more clarification information around catenary. We are very much in favor of leaving room in the tunnel for additional catenary wire so that we can long-term electrify the Pacific Surf Line and the coaster. Thank you.
My name's Amy Cheshire. I'm a resident of Del Mar. We began collaborating after we saw the draft NOP that showed the yellow line running through the San Diego Lagoon. We began collaborating, trying to find a solution that would work for everybody, that would please Solana Beach, the fairgrounds, Del Mar, would preserve our beaches, because double tracking the bluffs, keeping the tracks on the bluff, is going to destroy the beaches. And you don't want to destroy the lagoons. If you can get the tracks out of the Penasquitos Lagoon, that's a great improvement in San Diego County. And you want to keep it out of the San Diego Lagoon. So in collaborating with my fellow residents, we came up with the Northern Yellow Line. And SANDAG has committed to studying it. And I'm very grateful, but we haven't seen any progress. We'd like to make sure that it gets studied and that we are able to put as much work into designing a route that will save lagoons and beaches and not take any homes in Solana Beach, in Del Mar, and not take out any businesses. I have some flyers here if you'd like to look at them. They have all the details of the Northern Yellow Line, and you can sign it and submit it if you have something that you'd like to submit tonight. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Angelina Neglia, the leader of the Coalition for Safer Trains. We've been working with SANDAG for the past few years to work on this project to find a proactive way to not take people's homes and businesses and no eminent domain. And we have created the Northern Yellow Line, which you're starting to hear about. And we presented this to SANDAG a while ago, and after the first NOP, where we were the only non-rail stakeholders that made the shortlist last year. And from that, we worked out the Northern Yellow Line that comes out of the Trestle Bridge, hugs the southern edge of the fairgrounds, and everyone should know that the fairgrounds has a 100-foot public easement where the coastal trail would go, which has never been built, and fairgrounds hasn't really made that public. And Del Mar will be building a living levee around the north edge of that river because of the erosion. And that we are going to come off the event platform around the bridge and utilizing the easement. We'll have an elevated rail that goes around the exterior of the fairgrounds and doesn't cross Jimmy Durante at the roundabout because it's very congested there. And it goes across Jimmy Durante further north, goes across, and we can accommodate a 2% for a freight train and passenger train, goes across the very southern edge of the driving range, which is dirt. It's better to take dirt than somebody's home or business. And it heads to the I-5. There's no tunnels, no portals, no ventilation buildings, no noise, no vibration for any residents or businesses. And we take infrastructure out of the lagoon, and we hook up to the 2017 SANDAG I-5 alignment. And in my discussions with Mario and the team, they've committed that they will study our Northern Yellow Line to the same extent as the other alignments that have just been presented to you this evening. And it's key. If there's no eminent domain, no subsurface easements, then we won't have litigation. This project will be already 10 years of construction. Our biggest concern with the other alignments is the north portal at the intersection of Jimmy Durante and Camino Del Mar will virtually seal off the north end of Del Mar for over a decade. So there'll be no business, no tourism, nothing from the races. Emergency responders won't get into Del Mar. And I've just met with the fire chief because of the fires in Malibu. Our little tiny windy streets, all of the new evacuation routes all wind down to Camino Del Mar and Jimmy Durante to go north. Well, if that's gone, how do we get out of town? They have no good answer for that. And then the southern end, if there's going to be the Camino Del Mar southern portal, the issue with the southern portal is it takes homes at the southern end just like the north end, but there's also underground car park down there, and the tunnel and the portal will be right at that southern portal. And again, it's at Camino Del Mar, which will greatly restrict access in and out of the southern end of Del Mar. So when we talk about revenue generators, all I ever see is the fairgrounds as the revenue generator. Well, Del Mar is as well, and we won't survive if Del Mar is sealed off. The double tracking the bluff is a huge issue for us. We're working with geologists, and a lot of comments come to us and say, oh, you can just put a tunnel under Del Mar, what's the problem? Well, what they don't realize is a lot of the tunnels in the country are on the East Coast or the Midwest, and it's granite. The tunnels here would be in soft Torrey Pines sandstone. And people don't realize, like, there's Abrams tanks that StracNet uses to go on those tracks. They're 32 tons apiece. And the train is longer than Del Mar. That is what's going to be vibrating through all of whatever the rail alignment that's chosen and the tunnel. We can't let it happen. Thank you.
Jonathan Polikoff. I live in the city of Del Mar. And I think, there are a lot of priorities that were put on the board. I know when I read the document, it seemed to be important that the trains travel at high speed. I think the prime directive should be preserving the city of Del Mar. This is an existential crisis for our city. I agree with a lot of the comments that the previous speaker made. I guess I'll just be repeating some of them. you know, we can't let our business community go bankrupt. That's just not an option. We need to preserve egress and inflow to our city for safety reasons. What happened in Pacific Palisades is a good example of what happens when you don't have easy access out. And we need to, we cannot take homes by eminent domain. I mean, a home is, you know, a home in Delmar is basically, you know, it's like part of your family, you know. You cannot allow eminent domain or negative environmental impacts to the homes in Delmar. So, you know, of the alternatives placed up there, the yellow route, it seems to be the least bad, but I implore you to seriously study the more northerly route that won't impact homes that was mentioned previously. Thank you.
I'm Rudd Knudsen from Solana Beach. And after listening to the presentation this evening, one thing I didn't hear was the cost of doing nothing other than maintaining the tracks as they are. I heard the cost estimates for 3 or 4 of the alignments, but nothing about maintaining it as it is. So it'd be nice to see what that cost estimate might be over the next period of time, 10, 20, 30 years, whatever it may be. But I have to say, after listening to all the other people here tonight, that northern route, the northern yellow route, sounds the most common sense, and it sounds like it might be the most cost effective as well. So I would just hope that the SANDAG people and board of directors would take a look at that more closely. Thank you.